All right, good afternoon, everyone. This will be your answer videos. Video 1, question 1. Question says 15 minus 4x is equal to 2 bracket 3x plus 1. So you need to find or solve for x. Let's go to the steps, okay? So here's the question. We explained previously that due to the fact that you want to solve x, you need to obtain all possible values for x on one side. The first thing we need to do to realize that we can't just obviously take 3x and put it beside 4x because we have a 2 that is multiplying this bracket. So in order to get that 3x or the value that's attached to x to the left-hand side where 4x is by itself, really, we need to expand now this bracket on the right-hand side. Through expansion, we know that any term or terms that is inside of a bracket should be multiplied by the term that is on outside of the bracket. So in this case, we have two terms, 3x and a plus, which is separating the 1. So we have two terms. So we have 3x and we have 1 that is being multiplied by 2. So when we expand this bracket now, we get 2 times 3x plus 2 times 1. That'll give us 2 times 3x, which would be 6x, and 2 times 1, which would be 2. 6x plus 2, right? And that process of expansion is basically the distributive law. Distributive law says whatever is on the outside of B and C, we multiply individually A times B and A times C, adding together the B plus C. Understand? Okay. Now, after we've obtained that 6x plus 2, we now have the formula 15 minus 4x is equal to 6x plus 2, where we can now group or transpose to find the value of x that we want. So we stated already that when we have now a coefficient of x as also a term on the left-hand side, we need to try to get it to be divorced from x, right? So in this case, the first thing we're going to divorce is 15. 15 is not attached to x, so it has the least of resistance. So when we remove 15, right? We remove it as well from the right-hand side. So we subtract 15 from 15 here, we get 0. But the rule of mathematics says that whatever you do on the left should be done on the right, right? So we're going to subtract 15 from the left, 15 from the right. We then end up with 0 here, and then positive 2 minus 15. That's the same thing as saying, let me go here. So positive 2 is the same thing as saying 15 minus 2 and then keeping the larger sign. So 2 minus 15 or 15 minus 2 is the same thing, but you always keep the larger sign, right? So in this case, it would have been 13, but because you're keeping the larger sign, it would have been negative 13, right? In this case, because 15 is in front of 2, right, we say 13, and the larger sign is positive, so we say 13. In this case, we can work it simpler by not trying to work backwards, but we'll just say 15 minus 2, and then in your mind, just put back the negative sign there, so you always can keep track, okay? So that's a little trick you can do. You just switch around the 15 in front of the 2, keep the subtraction sign, and then add it back after. But in this case, it'll be negative 13 because the higher symbol is 15. Okay, so it'll be negative 4x is equal to 6x minus 13. The next step to do after we've had now one term of x on the left, we need to get the one that's on the right to the left as well, because we want x to be equal to something. So in this case, we want all values of x to be on the left to be equal to something that is not x on the right. So x is equal to 5, x is equal to 3. Value x on the left, answer on the right. So we carry over the 6x now, and the same process of subtraction we do to remove it from the left, to move from the right to put it to the left, we subtract from both sides. So in this case, we subtract now 6x from positive 6x on the right, subtract 6x from negative 4x from the left. When we do that, the law of integers, let me go back here. The addition law of integers states that like terms you add. So in this case, you have negative and negative. When you have two negatives, that's equal to plus. 2 positive equal to plus, all right? So we add both of these terms. Negative 4x, negative 6x, you add them and you keep the sign. Negative 10x now is equal to negative 13 because we left now the two 6x and they cancelled. 6x minus 6x is 0. So that's going to be now negative 10x is equal to negative 13. Now, we're close to the answer. But remember, the question said give the value for x. It did not say give the value for of negative 10x. Because if it asks for the value of negative 10x, then we would have let it stay as this. But it says give the value for x. So what we need to do now is something called transpose the value that is attached to x. And in this case, the value that's attached to x is negative 10. Negative 10 now is multiplying, right? So when you remember now the other integer law that says a division of transposition, right? Whatever you do on the left, you do the opposite on the right. So in this case, when we're multiplying the negative 10 on the x, in order to remove that negative 10 now, we need to divide it on both sides so x can be by itself. That's the division law of transposition. But whatever you were doing on the left, which is multiplication, you do the opposite rule, which is division, because the opposite of multiplication is division, and you divide it from both sides, and then you get negative 10 divided by negative 10, which cancels that negative 10. So you're left with x on the left, but then you now have negative 13 divided by negative 10. Now, what you may realize is that you have two negatives dividing. And remember from the transposition, from the integer law of division again, integer law of division from first form or from senior one, you remember that when you divide two like terms, so two negatives, right, you get a positive because you're squabbling. So they have to resort into a positive state, right? So that will give us now a positive 13 divided by 10. That was the recording for the first answer sample. I hope it was helpful. See you in the next sample.